Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to, well, not another true crime time with Junebug, that's me, but a badass dude alert. I'm just a history buff, and when I learn things, I tend to go down a rabbit. And my husband, the lovely Genesis, is big of a history buff, so who do I tell all this knowledge to? You 10 to maybe 50 people on the internet who watch. Thank you. Anyway, it has been a while. Is anyone surprised? No. I didn't think it'd take me this long. But May was a very busy month. Not necessarily bad, just very busy. And again, I didn't think I'd write 6 pages worth on this man, but here we are. And I know you could tell from the title of this video that the badass dude we are going to be talking about today is Terry Fox. And I know many of you are probably like, girl, you don't know who Terry Fox is? No, I'm sorry, I did not. And in my slight defense, 1, I'm not Canadian. Granted, I'm very close to Canada, geographically, not personally. And 2, when this was taking place, well, my dad hasn't even made his entrance into the world yet at this point. And my mom was like 6 months old. So it's not like they could tell me stories about this great Terry Fox they remember from when they were growing up, when they were barely here themselves. So I'm gonna say that's my excuse. And also 3, let's do 3. 3. Because no one told me about him in school. But yes, we were talking about Terry Fox today, and his badass dates seem to be, his whole life. But in particular, the peak badassness was April 12th of 1980 to June 28th of 1981. Again, that's the main part of the badassness. And he is only like 21, 22 during his peak badassness time. And this obviously takes place, as I mentioned, Canada. And the status, because I give that usually for true crimes, he unfortunately has passed. This will be my 3rd badass dude alert. And I don't think 3 out of 3 are not alive today, unfortunately. Anyway, let's dive into some pop culture things because there's a lot of them. And just apparently I haven't seen or heard of any of these. But there's a 1983 film, The Terry Fox Story, starring Eric Fryer and Robert Duvall. Now, there's a song by Ian Thomas called Runner, which came out in 1981. There is a 2005 film, Terry, starring Shawn Ashmore. There's a 2010 documentary called Into the Wind, directed by Steve Nash. And it was brought to the stage, like Terry's story, it was brought to the stage in 2016 in Marathon of Hope, the musical. And there's a book called Terry by Douglas Copeland. Anyway, there's many of these options, pop culture options, if you wanted to learn more. Anyway, let's just get into Terry. So Terrence Stanley Fox was born July 28th of 1958 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, to Roland and Betty Fox. He had an older brother named Fred, a younger brother named Daryl, and a younger sister named Judith. His upbringing seemed, quotations around normal, good, like it seemed fine, standard, I guess. Nothing really stuck out as like super bad or super fabulous. It's just a childhood. And I did see that it was mentioned he did have very doting parents, which I guess is very nice. Now, it was said growing up and as he got older, Terry was very competitive and tried to make the basketball team, but couldn't due to his height because he was 5'10", which, I would love to be 5'10". I am 5'7", shortest one in my immediate family. Mom, dad, siblings, all taller than me. I'm little. I would love to be 5'10", but I get that may have not been his dream height. So he did cross country instead, and he actually won his high school's Athlete of the Year award his senior year. Now, after graduating high school, he enrolled at Simon Fraser University to study, I might butcher this, I'm sorry, kinesiology, and to hopefully become a PE teacher one day. Now, his life would take a turn after an accident on November 12th of 1976. That day, he was driving home and he got distracted. It was bridge construction going on, and he was just looking, as we all do when we see something interesting when we're driving. His eyes just lingered a bit longer and he crashed into the back of a pickup truck. I assume honestly, I don't remember if it mentioned if the person driving the pickup was fine. I assume they're fine, but Terry injured his right knee in the crash and would still feel pain in December, which November to December isn't not that far apart, but when you're a high school and your prime athlete, or he was out of high school at this point, I'm pretty sure, it might seem like a bit slow for recovery period. I don't know. My body doesn't follow the normal age timelines. Don't ask me. The pain would slowly be increasing, but he didn't want to go to the doctor until after basketball season. So basketball season's over. He goes to the doctors finally, which was in March of 1977. And unfortunately, probably worst case scenario, I don't think there could be a worser case scenario, but he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is a type of bone cancer that turns out often starts near the knees. So his leg had to be amputated and he started chemotherapy. He was told he had about a 50% chance of survival, but at the time, this was rather hopeful because this was way higher than 2 years prior, because before more advancements in research went into this type of cancer, it was only a 15% chance of survival just 2 years prior. So 15 to 50, that is quite a jump, but it's essentially flipping a coin with your life. Now after the leg was amputated, he received an artificial leg, but he started walking 3 weeks after his amputation. Again, that seems fast to me, but I don't know the standard timeline. It does say, it's been mentioned that his positive outlook did seem to help him progress further and just keep trying instead of giving up oh, my leg's gone. Why bother trying to learn how to walk or something along those lines. He said to have a positive outlook and he wanted to walk, so he did. Now with leg amputation was obviously first in learning to walk, but then during this time and for the next 16 months, he would go through chemotherapy. That's a year and 4 months straight of chemotherapy. Again, I know it's different per person and the type of cancer, but I feel 16 months straight is a long time. That could not have felt good. I wrote in my notes, side quest, because this is happening in the middle of this 16 months or just around this time. It was the summer of 1977, and Rick Hansen, who is another badass dude, I might add, but Rick Hansen told Terry, I almost said Harry, told Terry to try out for his wheelchair basketball team. And Terry learned the sport and 2 months later joined the team. And he won 3 national titles with the team and was named an all-star by the NAWBA in 1980. Now I'm trying to remember what the NAWBA, I'm gonna put it on the screen. Anyways, Terry was also inspired by Dick Traum, who was the first amputee to complete the New York City Marathon, and told his I put fam in my notes, family. Terry told his family that he was going to run a marathon, and then he started a 14-month training program. However, only Terry and his close friend Douglas Aylward knew Terry's real intent and goal with this training. And that true goal was to run the length of Canada to raise awareness for cancer. The whole length of Canada, one ocean to the other. On September 2nd of 1979, he completed a 17-mile race. He was last place, but he did it, which I couldn't do it. Maybe if I trained, but I'm not gonna. Then after completing the 17-mile run, he did it, he went to his family and revealed his plan, that he wanted to run the length of Canada for cancer awareness. And they were not super supportive at first, which I can't 100% blame them. I could definitely understand that, because running the length of Canada is not an easy feat, and you're missing a leg and you have cancer, so I can maybe understand their hesitations. Now, his mom would later say, quote, he said, "I thought you'd be one of the first persons to believe in me, and I wasn't. I was the first person who let him down," end quote. And then with time, his family would eventually come around to the idea. I do want to add in a note, because it does heavily pertain to this. Even though he could run, he ran the 17 mile race, he didn't really run fast, hence his last place. His gait was just a bit unusual due to having the artificial leg, because with the artificial leg, he had to do, I saw like in quotes, a hop step on his good leg for the springs and the fake leg to have time to like reset. So he couldn't just run like someone with two legs could. He had to like, wonder if I can show like a little clip or have a picture. I doubt there's gonna be a GIF or a GIF of it, or you can just look it up. But he, like, it was basically, it looked like two steps with his good leg and one with the artificial leg. Now, Terry said this was very painful, which I could imagine, for actually both legs due to all of the extra pressure. He dealt with bone bruises, he had blisters, which are not surprising, and all around just intense pain from his running method. But I mean, there wasn't really any other method for him to run what he had to work with. But a good sign, I guess, is he said he would pass a pain threshold after about 20 minutes of running, and then it just became easier to deal with. I don't know if like a numbing came into effect or if it's just like it stopped, the pain stopped climbing so he could tolerate it. I'm not entirely sure, but just, he said that after 20 minutes, things got easier. Now, on October 15th of 1979, Terry sent a letter to the Canadian Cancer Society stating his goal and asking for funding. Because running is free, but you're gonna have to eat, sleep, and all that other stuff if you're gonna run across Canada, and that part's not free. Now, he closed the letter with this statement, quote, "We need your help. The people in cancer clinics all over the world need people who believe in miracles. I am not a dreamer, and I am not saying that this will initiate any kind of definitive answer or cure to cancer. I believe in miracles. I have to." End quote. Now, the society would agree on two conditions. One, he needed sponsors. And two, he needed a doctor's note saying he was actually fit and okay to do this. Because not only did he have the prosthetic leg and dealing with the whole cancer situation, he also had left ventricular hypertrophy. My gosh, I'm sorry. Left ventricular hypertrophy. I can say it so easily in my head, but not out loud, I guess. But basically, an enlarged heart. Handful of reasons this could be, but it seems to be for him in particular due to just how active he is, because apparently it can happen in like super athletic people. It's like the least scary way to get this, but even with this, as well as the amputated leg and the cancer situation, his doctor did approve of his run as long as Terry promised to stop if he experienced like any heart issues or just lung, chest, anything was not feeling right here. Now, after the doctor said, sure, he set to work finding sponsors. So I don't know quite how many people he tried or where a starting point was, but Ford donated the camper van that they used, because it wasn't just Terry alone. We'll get to that, but a camper van was donated from Ford. Now, Imperial Oil donated fuel for the camper van, and Adidas donated a lot of running shoes, because one pair of running shoes probably isn't going to withstand a whole literal cross-country run. So they provided many shoes. Terry would, other people did volunteer to sponsor, but he would turn down companies that wanted like endorsements or that would donate money only under certain circumstances or certain conditions. He said that no one but cancer research, like, and cancer patients were to profit from his run, which good for him. And I agree. I don't know who the companies were that he turned down. Maybe if I really try to dig, but that's not important. So he had the sponsors, he had the approval from his doctor, and therefore he met the Cancer Society's conditions. He could start his run. So he began his Marathon of Hope, as he called it, on April 12th of 1980. After dipping his leg in the Atlantic Ocean near St. John's, Newfoundland, and Labrador, he also filled 2 bottles with ocean water, one to keep as a souvenir, which is cute, and one to pour into the Pacific Ocean at the end of his journey in Victoria, British Columbia. And from this day on, with occasional days off, Terry would run a marathon every single day. Every single day, he ran a marathon with one leg. And remember, I said Ford donated the camper van because Terry wasn't alone. Well, good buddy Doug Aylward, the only one who originally knew what Terry was planning, came along and he was driving the van and also cooking the meals. And Terry, the ever-determined guy, he would run through gale force winds, heavy rain, and even a snowstorm the first few days of his run. And he was actually initially bummed by the reception he received about his race. And he wasn't getting a ton of like donations or recognition for what he was trying to do. That was until arriving in Channelport, Albiscus, to a donation of over $10,000. And remember that this isn't going in his pocket. This is going to cancer research, which would also benefit him as well as other cancer patients. Now, it is said that Terry did and could have a bit of a temper, which I would also be annoyed occasionally running a marathon a day with cancer. I just feel like you have a right to be just a little bit annoyed from time to time. But he was annoyed at people he deemed were like impeding his run. He fought on the regular with Doug, remember, guy driving the van and cooking his meals. And apparently they argued so much that they weren't on speaking terms by the time they reached Nova Scotia. So that's not great. But Terry's 17-year-old brother, Daryl, joined as like a buffer between the two. Now, tempers were also a bit higher when they entered Quebec, since none of the boys spoke French. And apparently their drivers were continuously like forcing him off the road. Yeah, because I think the van was like, you know when a car has its hazards on? I think the van had its hazards on just the whole trip, essentially. It was like half on the road, half off. Like a car could go around. So like they'd be following Terry as like a buffer so no one just smacked him with a vehicle. Now, obviously all this is, kind of wearing down at him, maybe heightening the temper and the annoyance, which fair. Things actually started looking up on June 22nd when arriving in Montreal. Because he was now a third through his journey. But also at this time, a third of the way through his journey, he had raised over $200,000 in donations, which really good. He also Terry caught the attention of Isidore Sharp, who is the founder and CEO of Four Seasons Hotels, and it's like offshoots. Now Terry caught his attention because he had recently lost his own son to cancer in 1978. I don't think it was the same cancer. Might have been leukemia. So Isidore would let them stay at his hotels for free and have the food for free when they were at the hotels. And he pledged $2 a mile and convinced close to 1,000 other corporations to do the same. Which, for a CEO of a corporation, I'm like, dang, all right, that's pretty dang nice. And I bring him up, one, because that was very nice, but two, he will be mentioned again later in the video. So just keep him in your mind somewhere. So Terry, he's still a running, but he crossed into Ontario on the last Saturday of June, not the last June of Saturday, and was met with a brass band, thousands of residents, and an escort from the police. So his Marathon of Hope was really catching on, and people were really supportive. And in Ottawa, when he made it there, he met its governor, he met Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, which, yes, is Justin Trudeau's father. I looked it up. Terry did the ceremonial kickoff at a Canadian Football League game, and he received a standing ovation. And on July 11th, arriving in Toronto, Terry was greeted by a crowd of 10,000 people, was given Daryl Sittler's 1980 All-Star Game jersey by the man himself, which the name doesn't mean really anything to me. I'm not a sports person at all, but pretty famous guy, especially in Canada. But Terry also threw the ceremonial pitch at a baseball game, and the Cancer Society estimated they collected $100,000 in donations that day alone. Now, at some point during his run, In Ontario, hockey player Bobby Orr donated a check for $25,000 and he gave it to him himself like during the run. And Terry would say meeting him was the highlight of his journey. And whilst all these things are great and amazing and he's getting the momentum he wanted this to, and he's third of the way through his run, all this running, a marathon nearly every single day, was taking a toll on his body. Because yeah, like I mentioned, he hardly took days off. Not even on his birthday. He marathon every single day. He had shin splints, he had an inflamed knee, he had cysts on his, I don't want to say stump, but I guess that's kind of what it was. Just feels weird to say stump. He had dizzy spells a lot, he had tendonitis in his ankle, and at the end of August was exhausted, like waking up. Before even beginning the day's run, he was just exhausted. But he kept pushing on. Then, unfortunately, if you know his story, the worst was yet to come. And that happened on September 1st when he was outside Thunder Bay. And he had to stop due to a coughing fit and chest pains. Like he paused, had a bit of a break, and then he would run a few more miles. But he stopped again and he asked Doug to drive him to the hospital. The next day, it makes me tear up. I always got teary-eyed doing research for this. I'm such a sap. But watching his interview where he had to announce he couldn't continue the run right now because his cancer had returned and it had spread to his lungs. So he had to end his run outside of Thunder Bay. He had ran for 143 days, 3,339 miles, and had raised $1.7 million when he had to stop, which is about $6 million in 2025. Probably just a teeny bit higher in 2026. I also want to note, this boy got so many awards. I'm going to skip over all of those because we would be here for like another hour. Like there is a lot. So don't worry if anyone's like, he got this. Yeah, I know. He got like all the awards. I can't list them all. I'm sorry. So a week after the run ended, CTV had a telethon in support of him and the Canadian Cancer Society. So this telethon was 5 hours, and in that 5 hours, that telethon raised $10.5 million. So about $40 million today. Now, Terry, being the stubborn badass he is, refused for anyone to complete the run for him or in his stead, in his place. He didn't want anyone to take up the run in his place, and he wanted to do it himself once, he recovered. So in the months after the run ended near Thunder Bay, he received multiple chemo treatments, but the cancer just kept spreading. He even went through some experimental treatments. He had adverse reactions to them, but then I think he wanted to try it again. He was determined to get back to that run. But on June 19th, 1981, he was admitted to a hospital for lung congestion and pneumonia. 9 days later, on June 28th of 1981, he fell into a coma and passed away. Terry was only 22 years old. To raise millions upon millions for cancer by the time you're 22. So, with Terry gone, we now have to focus on the aftermath of him doing his marathon of hope and just being a badass. So his funeral was attended by nearly 250 people and was actually broadcast on national television. Flags in Canada were put at half-mast, and hundreds of communities held memorial services. And donations, even more donations for the Cancer Society flooded in after his death. And now remember, Isidore Sharp, the Four Seasons guy I mentioned earlier in the video, he would actually start working with Terry's family, and the Terry Fox Run was born. And the first one was held on September 13th of 1981. And it's only grown from there. It's still ongoing, and it's actually now a global race. And I put quotes around that because anyone can join. You can be like any pace. It's for remembering Terry and for raising money for cancer. Like, this isn't a hardcore competitive thing. And now the run isn't necessarily done by Isidore Sharp and Terry's family. because there is now a Terry Fox Foundation that hosts the run. And that foundation has raised over $850 million for cancer research. It's probably up a bit because that update I think was from a year or two ago. So I honestly am hopeful in my lifetime I will see that hit $1 billion. This is also the run. It is the largest one-day fundraiser for cancer research in the world. And due to this funding, Canadian scientists have made advances for cancer. The cancer Terry had now has up to a 75% chance of survival. 75% survival rate. And I did see some articles that said even up to 80% survival rate, which it's not as drastic of a jump as it was from 15 to 50, but it's still amazing. That's not just flipping a coin on if you're gonna survive or not. It's way more hopeful. The outlook is just so much better now from what he started. And then I also know people may mention that there is a ton of like memorials, monuments dedicated to Terry. And yes, there is a lot. So much so, there is just a Wikipedia page for those. Like separate from his own Wikipedia page or the Terry Fox Wikipedia page. There's just a page for all the monuments and memorials and like schools and roads, everything dedicated to him throughout the years, not just at the time. So I will not really be mentioning those because there is a lot. If you are interested, you can find a list online. But I will mention that I want to say the biggest memorial monument to him is in Thunder Bay, or outside of Thunder Bay where he had to stop his run. But anyway, enough about all of Terry's monuments and memorials, because we have to get on to quote unquote finishing the race. Now, obviously Terry could not ever complete it himself. I do want to know what happened to that bottle of water, because one he obviously wanted to keep anyway, but the other one was supposed to go in the Pacific Ocean. I wonder what happened to that. But anyway, for finishing the race, 18-year-old Steve Fagno, who had the same type of cancer and the same leg amputated as Terry, he duplicated Terry's run in 1984, calling it the Journey for Lives. Now, he started March 31st of 1984, and he took a day to honor Terry in Thunder Bay, where Terry had to stop. And then he finished on May 29th of 1985. And he raised over $13 million for cancer, which I know that's not as much as Terry, but that's still really dang good. Thank you, Steve. Although he had some, later in life, some issues with the law, but we're just, thank you, Steve, for the cancer donation. The Cancer Research Fund donation. There we go. And then do you remember Terry's friend, Rick Hansen, who they played the basketball together? He would also go on to circle the globe in his wheelchair. He wanted to circumnavigate the whole globe. But he would go on to actually successfully accomplish this feat. And he started in 1985. He also stopped to honor Terry, and he finished on May 1987. He called it the Man in Motion World Tour. He went through 34 countries and raised over $26 million. And I do want to note, Rick is alive. I assume well. I don't know him personally, but I'm assuming he's alive and well. And he is now 68. And Steve, he passed away in 2022 at 56 years old. Just for updates on them. So that is the story, shortened a little bit, of Terry Fox and his run. But in the description box, I will probably link the Wikipedia page with all the monuments. But then I'm also going to want to link, it was the Terry Fox story, which is I think it's 4 minutes long. I liked the whole thing, so I couldn't choose a part to clip and put in here, and it just doesn't feel right to put the entire clip in here, give the view to the Terry Fox Foundation. I've already given it a couple times a view, so I'll link that video below. It's really moving. Give that a little watch. Very short. But that is it for today. Sorry for the rambling. Terry Fox is very inspiring, as most of us know. And I will see you next time. I do know what I'm covering next time. It will not be as long as this. And it's back to true crime. Anyway, I want water. I've been talking way too long. And you have a good day. You in particular. I'm talking to you. And maybe donate to the Cancer Foundation. We don't have a cure yet, so gotta keep looking. Bye, guys.